Hello viewers, here we have a Hampton Bay light. This is a rechargeable table lamp and it has quit working this year. I've had this for a long time. It's got a date code or something 2007 on there. I see the Hampton Bay logo on there. And it's a really nice light. It's waterproof, it's got a good run time to it. And when I plugged it in this year, it worked fine last year, but it's been sitting since summer, so hasn't been used in probably 6 months, 8 months. And when I plugged it in, I noticed that there was an issue with the charging port here. It seemed to have to be sitting at a certain angle before it would take a charge. And the other issue I noticed was that it would charge up and indicate that the batteries were full within a matter of 5 minutes, and it would run down to no charge just as quickly. So obviously we have two problems here. One, we have an issue with the batteries, and we also have an issue with the charging port. Now we're going to get to the charging port in a minute, but I want to underscore the batteries first. Now the batteries, they sit in this compartment, and this utilizes what's called a dumb charger, if you will. What it does is, because this is a total of 3.6 volts that's coming out of this battery pack, because it's wired in series. What the charging circuitry does is it just puts a voltage. It's probably 5 volts. Let's look at the charger here. Okay, 6 volts. So it puts 6 volts across the batteries and just hopes for the best, really. And that's deplorable, because what happens is you have one battery that gets overcharged, one that gets undercharged, and the one in the middle is probably doesn't take that much abuse and probably gets charged about where it should be. The other reason that's terrible is because the batteries don't drain equally either. So when you go into the charging sequence, the batteries are already not all at the same charge. So this kind of a charging system really just destroys batteries. What you really want to do is use a charge like this one, for instance, where each cell gets monitored individually as it charges. So you can see here, these are the batteries that I took out of the lantern. I put these in here last night before I went to sleep. So these have been sitting in here for probably close to 15 hours now. And you can see one of them has charged up, and these other two are still charging. Now this charges at a rate of 700 milliamps. So these cells that are 1500 milliamp in capacity should charge up in a few hours. I don't know when this one finished charging up. Perhaps it charged up, sometime. It could have charged up 5 minutes before I got up for the morning. I don't know, but it seems to have charged up okay. These two are still going, and they're getting very warm. So this is exemplifying my theorem here. This battery was probably on one end of the circuitry, this one was on the other, and then this one was probably in the middle. Now I'm going to take these out here and not gonna hold them. Yeah, those are definitely not any good, but I'm going to put these back in the light and see what happens. I used these last year and they worked perfectly fine. So perhaps we can get another year out of them. I mean, these are 12 years old, and I'm not going to put up a fuss about replacing 12-year-old batteries, but as always, I use it until it's completely worthless. So let's put these in here, and then these are really hot. Jeez, that is not good. And I can show you the problem. And actually, before I do that, I'll leave that open so they cool off. I want to make another point about the battery charging here. I got I have a set of these phones, and these phones charges at half or 2/3, whatever, I don't know. Use the same kind of a circuitry. Two batteries in series, and I just want to show here. You'll see these batteries are probably not drained equally. Okay, yeah, see, come on. I gotta clean the contacts on this charger. It's not making a good contact. Oh, of course now it's gonna make a fool out of me. Well, never mind. Anyways, the point is these phones go through batteries like there's no tomorrow, and I blame that completely on this cheap charging circuitry in there. If they had spent another 55 cents to get individual cell charging in these phones, it probably would last forever, or not forever, but a long time. A lot longer than they do. But anyways, that's a total digression from the video. So I'm going to turn this lantern on, and you can see that it's working. And I'm going to plug in the charge, and we're going to see. Now, I can't get this into my power bar here. Okay, so when this is connected, we have a charging light here. The green indicates it's charged, and the red indicates that it's not charged, or that it's charging. So this is claiming that it's charged. Now, you can see as I move the wire ever so slightly, the connection drops out. So we're going to have to go in there and figure out what the problem is. I mean, it is usable still, but when you have these loose connections, it just creates a potential for something to overheat or have another problem. So I believe this just comes off. Okay, that was easy. So you can see the charging circuitry is, like I said, there's nothing to it. It has no brains to it. Now, I don't like how this is all glued in there, because that's going to make it very difficult to fix anything. Especially, I'm not sure how I'm going to get this thing out because it's all glued in. I may have to like cut the glue or something. I just cut off, or not cut off, I cut a slit in the glue on either side of this rubber thing. So now I believe we should be able to remove the... Oh man, it's in there tight. I have to get a different screwdriver. I think we should be able to remove the circuit board, and perhaps, I don't know if we'll have to glue that port back on or solder it back on. The glue obviously didn't work, so probably try something else. And there is another screw here under this glue. I don't know why they insist on putting all this crazy glue in here. Okay, so let's see how... Is this one to come out? Yes, it is. Okay, looks like the glue is stuck on the board here. I really don't want that to break. There we go. Alright, so now we have our circuitry free, and this is definitely loose on the board here. So I think all we're going to do is, now yeah, I can see I don't know if you can see on the video, but I can actually see the solder joints moving around. So this just needs to be reflowed, and that should solve the problem. So I'll take this downstairs later today and reflow it down there. Okay, we're downstairs now. I have the soldering iron turned on, and we're going to attempt to get this thing back in order. And all we're going to do is just reflow these 3 joints. Is that going to focus? Okay, so we're looking at these joints right here. And what I don't quite understand about this whole thing is that this glue resides far above the board. It doesn't actually hold anything to the board, including the plug. So I don't quite understand. I guess you're not really. Well, you can see it with the LED. It's holding it like next to the other components, not holding it to the board. So I have a feeling this will break again, because the solder connections themselves are only so strong, and this it does have quite a bit of force to it because you're plugging something in. But I don't know. It's lasted 12 years, so if it lasts another 12 and then I have to fix it again, I'm not going to get too upset about it. Well, that didn't go as easily as I hoped it would. Looks like we have to get some fresh solder on there. Oh no. It looks like the conductive portion of the board is actually lifted off, which is a serious problem. However, well, let's just see if it's working at this point. I think I understand how it's wired in, but perhaps I don't. Okay, so it's not working, and I believe that's because this what is the source of the problem? Now I can't seem to... Oh, there we go. It's kind of working now in a certain angle. Yeah, see what's happened is the conductive portion of the electronics board is lifted off of the board, and so now you're soldering it to nothing, which is why the solder's not sticking. So we're going to have to kind of rebuild the circuitry here, if you will. So I'm going to get a piece of wire, see if I can get this to work the way I want it to. I don't know if we can perhaps short these two terminals, get that to work. Nope. Okay. What I don't understand about this plug is that there's only two wires that go into it. There's a black wire and there's a white wire. And that's all that... Why is the light turning on? Well, anyways, I guess there's more to this switch than I realize. So I think what I want to do is I'm going to cut the remainder of this glue out so that I can remove the plug here and kind of examine it and see if I can figure out how it works. There also appear to be some markings on the board itself, which may provide some insight as to where things need to be connected. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this plug in its entirety, and then now we'll take a look at it a little bit closer. Come on, bro. Okay. So it looks like there's let's see what we have on the board here. Wish this glue wasn't here so I could see what's on the board on this side. Well, it looks like my wish will come true. So this just has a positive and a negative terminals, which would make sense if all we had was a positive and negative terminals off of here as well. Now looking at the circuitry, it would seem like the positive terminal is the one up in the front. Now if we look at the wiring diagram on the plug, you'll see we have this little diagram right here, and this is showing that the positive side is internal on the plug. So this outer thing here, oops, not even in the view. This outer, come on, unblur please. Okay, so this outer, unblur again so I can make my video here. This outer portion is the, now I forgot what it was because it's stupid blur and freak show. Okay, so the outer portion is the negative and the inner portion is the positive. So of course this is a little less straightforward to figure out, but that pin there, as you can see inside, is what takes the positive connection. So of course I don't necessarily know for certain which one of these terminals on this jack connect there, but well, actually we can find out, and I have to get the meter out. I thought this was going to be a simple repair that takes about 5 minutes, but of course now it's turning into a full-fledged hour-long production. So I'm going to turn on the meter. We're going to put it on continuity. And we're going to check to see here which of these terminals is going to be the positive. And then once we gather this information, I'm going to do some jumping on the circuit board to avoid the bad places of the bad connections there where this thing was sitting. So I'm gonna put one of these terminals on there and then check these other three. And why isn't this making sound? Oh, it wasn't on sound mode. Oh, that doesn't sound too good. What happened to the meter? Oh man, I wonder if the battery's running out. Well, anyways, it sounds bad, but we'll be able to get through the video, I hope. So I'm gonna connect this to the center terminal, and I'm gonna see which one of these other terminals is the center. Okay, so the one on the back is the positive. And now I don't really have a means of getting the, well, let's see, maybe I can use a small piece of wire. It's really too small to to check for certain. Whoops. See if I can do this here. Either way, it's going to be one of these. Actually, easier. Let's do it this way. I'm going to probe two of these at a time and see if they're the same. They are. Okay, so I've gathered the information I needed, and that is the fact that this terminal in the back is the positive one, and then these two are the negative. And I don't understand why there's two, because they seem to be completely connected, but it is what it is. So now what I'm going to do is we're going to put this back on the circuit board here, and since this is spoiled, actually I'll show this too. Hopefully this doesn't take too long, because I didn't bring down the power cord for the camera because I thought this wasn't going to take very long. Let's get this not blurry. So you can see here that the conductive material on the board, the conductive channel, has actually flaked off right here and here where the connections need to be. And so ultimately this is why it wasn't working. And so what we're going to do is, I think this joint is okay, so we may just have to do this joint. I'm going to take a piece of wire and just jumper it from here. Or actually, perhaps even easier, I could just take... Nah, we'll do the jumpering, and in fact I'll use this very piece of wire to do it. Save myself some time there rather than playing with the moving around of wires. I'm not sure how the slack is and whatnot. So alright, so let's get this put back in. I'm going to let it channel through these holes because that's going to keep it in place. And I'm going to have to melt this solder to get it pushed through. There we go. So now that's back in place physically. I'm going to add some more solder to this joint here, and then I'm going to do some testing and make sure that it's getting a good connection there. So we now, we now have a good connection to the board on this terminal. So I'm going to take the meter again, and we're going to measure these two connections here, and they are connected. So now what we have to do is get a connection from here we need to get a connection from this terminal to that terminal. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to connect Oh, how I'm going to do this. I've got old tweezers out. I'm going to connect. Oh, jeez. I'm going to connect this terminal and I'm intentionally using more solder than is necessary because I want to make sure that the thing isn't going to pull through again and lose the connection. So that's connected there with that. It's connected kind of poorly, but again I'm using more than is necessary for sturdy to create sturdiness on the connection. So now I'll connect this wire to the other side like that. And so now we should have connectivity between here and here. So I'll measure here and then I'll measure on the other side of the board. And not enough space to get there. I think that's good. So let's plug it in and see if it works. If it's working properly, that LED should flash red indicating a charge. Ugh. Okay, so it's kind of working. Seems to be a reliability issue here, and I'm not too sure why. I'll try to give this joint a reflow. Perhaps it didn't. It's not taking well again because there's an issue with the board, but there's nothing I can do about that. I'm wondering if there's actually something wrong with this, with the port now itself, because although it's working, it seems to be very intermittent. Either that or let's just stick this in place here for a minute and see how it operates in place. Okay, so that's where it would normally sit, and I do see a problem. It's too small. It's not too small. It's too low inside the hole. I don't think it's physically going to plug in anyways. Actually, it does plug in. Huh. Well, you know what? Let's screw it in and see how it works. Huh, this screw isn't magnetic, but the other one was. That's bizarre. The crazy glue is causing interference with getting the screw put back into place. Alright, so this is making a mess. So that circuit board is secured into place now. Let's plug it in and see if it works. Seems to be working. In fact, because it's kind of on an angle, it's keeping the plug in there very securely. You know, actually, that's going to work. I'm going to say I'm happy with that. It's working. You know, and again, it's only held in by solder, so it may break eventually, but it lasts another 12 summers, and then I have to solder it again. I'm not going to complain about it. As it is, I probably unplugged it and plugged it in the past 5 minutes more times than I would typically do in a month. So if it's holding up to this, I think it's fine. Alright, that's fixed. So now we'll just cover this, close that up. We'll I don't know, we'll just put these pieces of glue in there in case for whatever odd reason I find a need for them someday. And we'll put this back on. Hopefully this hasn't lost its stickiness. Alright. Okay. That is good to go now. Thank you for watching. Comment, subscribe, and out.